Please welcome to the stage June Sarpong of the BBC and Dr. Dennis Mukwege of Panzi Hospital and Foundation.
Thank you. Hello everyone, hello to all of you in the audience joining us right now, of course those that are in the overflow room and those that are tuning in virtually as well. It's an absolute honor to lead this conversation with Dr. Dennis Mukwege, Nobel Peace Prize winner in 2018, and of course the founder of the Panzi Hospital and Foundation. This man is doing extraordinary work. I know many of you are aware of the phenomenal work that Dr. Mukwege is leading and the thousands, over 70,000 lives that have been saved. So before I begin our conversation, I think we need to give him a proper round of applause. Woo! So, Dr. Mukwege, what I'd love to start with first is the picture and the outlook in terms of where we are right now. You've spoken extensively about rape being used as a weapon of war. This is something that we've seen the horrors of for years in the DRC and of course more recently now in the Ukraine. Can you explain to the global community and what the global community actually needs to do to properly address this barbarity?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Today, no one can say that I didn't know what is happening in Congo.
Yes.
The situation in Congo and the war in Congo is the deadliest situation
Yes.
Since the Second World War.
Yeah.
So millions of people were killed, millions of women were raped, and it's not just to rape them. To rape is already a terrible thing, but to rape with extreme violence, to rape just to try to destroy women, it's a terrible situation for women, and this is now for 2 decades that this situation is going on. And we have more than 5 million of people who are internally displaced. So the situation in Congo is really one of the terrible situations in the world.
Yeah.
And I think to see what is happening in Congo, and as you said, we are following what is happening in Ukraine. And I'm really very encouraged by what is happening if I can see how the international community is supporting the population in Ukraine, I think that this is a way that things should be done.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. And I think that the outcry, the global outcry about rape as a weapon of war should happen for when it happens everywhere in the world.
100.
But I think that the situation in Congo is one of the most terrible situations that people are just doing that. They forget all the population in
That
Congo.
it's still ongoing.
Yes,
And,
exactly.
and in a way, it has been overlooked by the global community.
Exactly. I think we are not talking about the situation that passed many years ago. Even 2 weeks ago, I got a report of one village where more than 200 people were killed and women were raped. So it's not history, it's just happening now.
Yeah. Dr. Mukwege, you have helped now over 70,000 women and girls who have experienced this horror. And we were talking before and you were saying in some cases you are working with 3 generations of rape victims. That's how long this conflict has been going on. Can you speak specifically about the work that the Panzi Hospital does and in particular the 360 holistic approach that you and your team take?
Yeah, we started to take care of victims of sexual violence in 1999.
Wow.
And at this moment, really, I could never think that I will be doing this work for a long
30
time.
years,
I
yeah.
just got the impression that maybe it's just something happened because It was a war time, so I could not imagine that this will take a long time. But after a few months, I started to just realize that the situation for women is just a terrible situation, because it was not a normal, it was not a rape that we know in the community.
Yeah.
To rape a woman and destroy her genital, to rape her and shot in her genital, or burn, or sometime to put sext and so on. So I start to realize that it's not a normal rape, it's a rape to destroy the community.
Yeah.
To destroy the community. So in our protocol, it was to treat them physically. But after some months, we discovered that the physical treatment was not enough.
No.
Women could not go back home, because after to be treated physically, most of the time they're coming back with other complaint for other things. So we introduced the second pillar of our protocol is psychological support.
Yes.
So we have psychologists and social assistants who are supporting women to help them mentally. And after to introduce this in our protocol, we saw that really the situation of women improved a lot. So most of them could be able to go back home.
Yeah.
But before to go back home, the problem was the community most of the time are rejecting them.
Yes.
So they don't have family, or the community don't want them to come back, and especially when they are pregnant or when they have a child born after rape.
Yes.
So we create a third pillar, was to support them, socio-economical support,
Yes.
to help them to be reintegrated in the community.
Yeah.
And for this, you are just giving them different training so they can be able to work for themselves, and for all the young girls to send them to school,
Yeah.
help them to go back to school and support them. So, but our experience is that after these three pillars, most of the time, it's when women are coming back to us, and the question is, why it happened to
Yes.
me?
Yeah.
Why me? And sometime also, you know, you are in a country where all these people who are committing this crime are not at all punished
Yeah.
for what they are doing.
Yeah.
So sometimes women are coming back and ask us, the guy who raped me, he is
He's
in
still
the
there.
village, he's still
Yes.
there.
Yep.
And I want you, if you can
Justice.
support me, to go to justice.
Yeah.
So we have a strong team of lawyers
Wow.
who is supporting women to make their file and accompany them to go to justice.
Yeah.
And when it comes to justice, I think that sometimes we can think that women, when they seek justice, is because they want revenge. It's not really revenge. They want to be recognized as victims. They want that the community can know that it happened to them, it was not their fault. It's a way to say, I want to be recognized as victim
Yes.
by my community,
Yes.
and not to be guilty about something that
Yes.
I have never asked to go through these terrible things.
Yes.
And I still remember it was the Kavumu case where 200 children were raped by rebel groups, and we support this the family to go to justice.
Yes.
And what touched me a lot was when the mother, they got this just decision of the judge, it was without any reparation. But in all the village, it was like really to
Yeah.
celebrate,
Yes.
just to get this paper,
Perpetrator.
to show that now we know what happened to our children,
Yes.
and we know who did it, and now he was prosecuted. And I think, yeah.
And legally that has been recognized.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So everyone recognized that it happened and it was not the fault of the parents. So we need really to support victims of sexual violence to go to justice.
Yes.
It's not a revenge, but it's a way to help them to go in this process of the healing process.
Yes. And can we talk about the danger that it's actually then caused your own life, in that there was an attempt on your life and you had to, at one point, flee the country, but the women actually came together and sold vegetables and what they could to attempt to bring you back, and you did go back, but you live under protection.
Exactly.
And every day is a day to be fearful for yourself. What keeps you going?
Yeah, it was in 2012, after the meeting here in New York.
Yes.
I returned back in my country, and people with guns were waiting for me, and they took my 2 doctors as hostage. And just when I go in my house, they start to shoot, and they kill one of my guards.
Wow.
He was just killed in front of my daughters. And this was really a terrible situation for me, because I could not imagine that the only thing that I did was to denounce and say that women need justice.
Yeah.
And when I was here, I just think that the international community should really work to stop impunity in Congo, and especially when it comes to the impunity after rape. I think that we should stand up with women
Yes.
and support them.
Yes.
So after this speech, to return home, I got this problem. And after 2 days, I was waiting that maybe the prosecutor will come to try to understand what happened, but no one came. So I understand that if I stay here,
Yeah.
I will also lose
You
my,
lose a life.
my life.
And possibly
So-
your family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I decided to leave the country.
Yeah.
And after 1 month, the women of a small Iceland, Idri, they wrote a letter to the president of Congo, Mr.
Wow.
Kabila, to ask him to bring me back. And they didn't get any answer. After 2 weeks, they wrote a letter to the Secretary General of the UN. They wrote a letter, they didn't get answer. So after 2 months, they decide to start to sell fruit and vegetables at the hospital, doing their sitting at the hospital, selling vegetables and fruit. And each Friday, they'll just bring $50 at the hospital to pay my ticket back.
Wow.
And they even didn't know how much the ticket will cost. And most of them, they don't have even $1 per
Yeah.
day for their own life, but they could save $50 to pay my ticket back.
Amazing.
So,
wow.
yeah. And at this moment, really, when I received this report after 4 weeks, I just understood that
You have
no
to go
one
back.
will,
Yeah.
no one will stop them.
Yeah.
So I decided to return.
Wow.
And when I came back, they were there to wait for me, and they said, "Will be 25 women around your house, 24 hours
A day.
to protect you.
Yeah.
So if someone wants really to do something bad against you, he must kill 25 innocent women before."
Yeah.
And I found this really, that it was a wonderful
Wow.
support from the women I was treating.
Wow. Which just brings me perfectly.
And now I'm living at the hospital with my patient,
Protection.
but under the protection of
Yeah.
the UN police.
Yes, I
Yeah.
know. Dr. Mukwege, this brings me perfectly to my final question, because what you've described there beautifully depicts the title of your book, and we have something in common because we both have books of the same title. But I think his is a lot more important than mine. Just saying, The Power of Women. So, can you tell me about that?
Yeah, you know, women shape all my life, and I was just to write this book. It's a tribute for women, what they did for my life, and I
Yeah.
think that I discover how women are powerful because treating women, what I discover is that women are not living for themselves; they are living for
The future.
the future,
Next
for
generation.
the children,
Yeah.
for the community.
Yeah.
And I find this really very, very strong.
Yeah.
And I think that it was very important for me to write something
To recognize that.
to recognize this power of women.
Well, we're so glad you did, and you are the epitome of male allyship, and we thank you for the work that you're doing. Unfortunately, we have come to the end of our time, but before we wrap up, Dr. Mukwege, I know how humble and modest you are, and you never ask for help. So I am going to ask for help for Pansy. The work they're doing is incredible. And so for anybody that wants to get involved and donate and support, please go to pansy.org, P-A-N-Z-I. Very straightforward. We need to support this extraordinary man to continue to do the work that he's doing to save the lives of so many women and girls. So thank you, Dr. Mukwege.
Thank you.
After you. No, after you.